Witch test 1 2 3. Witch test 1 2 3. YouTube test 1 2 3. Witch. YouTube test 1 2 3. Okay. I mute that. That's me. That's me. That's my sound. Okay. Sure. Let's make this. Is the highest it'll go before it gets laggy? Yeah, okay. Let's just turn on the lights now, 1 sec. How's it looking? Kind of bright. Possibly doable. 1 sec. Okay, jeez. What a journey to get here. I feel like that's too much, too little, I don't know. I'm gonna talk a lot now, and play some remix. I've got my water. And actually, hang on, before I do that, can I zoom that a little bit so I can see better? Thank you. And can I zoom this a little bit so I can see better? Thanks. And then if I go here, just 'cause I'm doing things a little bit differently right now. Just nervous that something's not going. First on extreme. Okay. So if I like go to my channel, here it is. I click on that. There we go. Okay. Okay. Wow. We're in this, finally. Let's do... What's the Antorus called? Fresh Fast. That's mine. It's mine. It's mine. So, okay, let's talk about this. So, as I've been saying the last little bit at this point, I wanted to get new hard drives for Black Friday to install Linux on. And I need to hand this in. I really picked this up. Sure. For now, I guess we'll just leave it at that. Unless you can give me something. Oh, let me do Trial of Valor here. Trial of Valor. And then give me new set. Trial of Valor again. Cringe. Whatever. Okay, so... Nice. So, yeah, as I was saying, I wanted to get drives for Linux. And last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday. No, I think it was... I don't know, I think it was Thursday. I was like, I don't know when Black Friday deals start, but maybe it's like a week early. Sure enough, it's a week early, and I was not ready yet because I had not finished backing up all of my files, moving stuff over, because I needed to get like, I think 2 or something like that terabytes of stuff moved somewhere else. So I started working on that, and then Friday I went and I bought the drives because they're on sale. May as well have them. I'll be done by the weekend moving all this stuff, so I can work on it then. So I finished that up. By the time I was done moving everything, it was Saturday afternoon. Turn off my computer, hook up I take out the old M2 that I had, the 256 gig one, and I put in the new 2 terabyte ones, both of them that I got, as well as I disconnected both of the spinning disk hard drives that I had, and I put on the what's it called? Put in the new SATA SSD that I got. So basically, I bought 3 drives in total. I bought 2 M2s, 2 terabytes each. They're 990 Pros, and then the Samsung 870 EVO for an SSD, 4 terabytes. The plan was, I previously had 4 drives. The M2 had my Windows on it, 256 gigs, not great. The old 850 EVO SSD that I had was for my games. That was 1 gig. And then the 2 spinning disks that I had, one of them was 1 terabyte, was for miscellaneous storage like downloads and stuff. And then the 4th drive, which was the 4 terabyte spinning disk, was for all my OBS recordings. Hello Slug, how are you? Welcome to the stream early this time. Nice to see ya. How are things going with you? So I took all that out, and I had at this point just 4 drives. So I had the 2 new M2s, the old SATA SSD, and the new SATA SSD. Turn on the computer. Only the 2 SATA SSDs are being recognized. And I'm like, okay, that's concerning. So I go into BIOS. They're not there either. Okay. So I checked the manufacturer because I had an ASRock Fatality. I think it's still actually, I haven't updated my Twitch, so it's still there, but I had like an ASRock board, a Z370, and it supports up to Gen 3 PCIe for M2s. And the new drives that I got are PCIe 4. But PCIe 4 is supposed to be backwards compatible with PCIe 3. So I was like, okay, well, let me go see if there's like a BIOS update. So I go and I check, and there's only one new one. Like, I was on version 420, I think, of my BIOS. Nice. And the newest version was like 420C. And I was like, I mean, minor upgrade. Let's just see. Install it. Still in BIOS. Can't see these drives. I go into Windows, reboot again, just because maybe you have to initialize or something. No, not there. So I start researching this, and I find that despite the fact that Gen 4 is backwards compatible with Gen 3, not all motherboards support that. And there's actually like a compatibility list on, I forget, it was the motherboard or Samsung's site, but my board was not on there. So that's when I realized, oh, okay, so my drives are not supported. So this hype that I had to buy these drives, it no longer exists. So at that point, I had options. Do I return these M2s and keep the SATA SSD and just use what I had before? Hello, Rishan. Or do I just bite the bullet and upgrade my computer? And I was like, I was kind of annoyed too, because when I went to go buy the M2s, or the drives, I should say, I had meant to ask the guy if I could purchase everything separately, so like buy each drive on its own, so that way I had a receipt for every individual item, because that way when I'm just when I'm storing stuff, I can just have it in the box, the receipt for that one thing, instead of having like all my purchases on one receipt, and then like one box somewhere has this receipt. And it's like, okay, well, where do I find this specific drive? It's not in that drive, not in that drive, it's in that box. Okay. Forgot to do that. So it's like a 30 or I think it's a 90-day exchange or return for defective items. And I'm like, well, if I returned one at one of these drives, you can do that. 2 though? 2 drives aren't working? Bro, that's a you problem. I just didn't really, I don't know how the whole return thing goes. I didn't want to deal with that. So I was like, let's just see how much parts are. If I had an individual receipt for everything, I would have, because I would have driven the 15 minutes to go return the one, then went to the one nearby here, returned it there. Would have been fine. And that's how I would have done it. But because I only had one receipt, I didn't want to do that. So I started looking into parts, and I wanted to buy stuff locally, because I didn't want to wait for, Amazon to ship or Newegg to ship and stuff. So, and plus, as well as returns, the thing I hate about returns with hardware is that, like, if it doesn't work, okay, we'll have to go return it, obviously, and then wait like a week or whatever before they get it and send a new one back. It's like, when I just drive to the store and get an exchange right there and then. So I wanted to go the local route. So I started looking into stuff. I'm like, well, at the very least, I need a new motherboard and a new processor. But if I'm getting a new motherboard, I may as well get some new RAM. And RAM prices are skyrocketing right now. So better now before I have to, like, mortgage a house or like refinance something to get that. So like, okay, let me get at least those 3 things, right? I start looking, and it's like, I mean, there's some good sales, good deals. Like, I wasn't intending on upgrading my computer. I kind of wanted to go the route of, like, once a year, upgrade something. You know, maybe this year was going to be the hard drives. Next year, I was thinking maybe I would do the the motherboard and CPU. Probably the RAM, I guess, at that point, too. And then, you know, the year after that, maybe the graphics card. So I was like, okay, you know, slowly go through all that. And over the next few years, upgrade my computer. I was like, I kind of have to now. So I started looking into stuff, and I'm like, okay, prices aren't that bad, I guess. You know, again, kind of a surprise upgrade here. So I started looking. The motherboard took like 2. So at that point, in total took like 6 hours to figure out what I wanted, and finally like go through all the videos, reviews, and stuff to figure out what I wanted. But the motherboard took like 2 hours of that because every single motherboard has issues, obviously. But like, it felt like every time I found a motherboard that I liked, there was some issue with it, where it was like a lot of reviews like, yeah, it sucks on Linux for some reason. Which I guess probably wouldn't, because it's just some of those reviews from like the summer, which is just old kernel, would have been upgraded just fine. But whatever. But there's like, I'd watch reviews and I'm like, the issues that they have, they're minor or sometimes major, and they're like the things that matter to me, so I don't want that. And the thing that was the most frustrating is that all these boards, I think it's called bifurcation, which is basically if you plug in, like you have your graphics card plugged into a PCI thing. If you plug in an SSD, you can do, or M2 I should say, that one specifically doesn't share PCIe lanes, but they are PCIe connected. But if you plug in a second SSD in PCIe, I don't know, I said it like that, that'll take away processing power from your graphics card. They share lanes. So I think by default it's like a X16 slot, versus if you start putting different M2s in, you start getting an 8. So it's like you kind of cut your graphics card performance in half. And there's so many of these motherboards. Like, this is so annoying. Like, why have 3 or 4 M2 slots if I'm taking away from my graphics card by having more than one? That's stupid. And so pretty much every single graphics card had this, and every once in a while, they'd be like, yeah, you can have 2 without, you know, the bifurcation taking place. But all of those were not sold anywhere locally. Like one of them, I think, was like a gigabyte board. And that was like an hour away, which, I mean, not the worst. It's like, I don't want to drive an hour for this, especially if it might not work. Like, then returning it, have to go there again, if they even have another one, just outside of this one. So kept looking. And then finally, because I was using Gemini to help with this as well. And so Gemini was recommending some MSI motherboard. And so I looked into it, but the one that I wanted, the place I was looking at didn't have it. And so when I searched it, a different motherboard came up that I clicked on, and as it was loading, I was like, wait, this isn't the one that it recommended, but whatever, I'll take a look at it. And it just so happened that as I was looking into this, I was like, this one actually is good. There is no bifurcation. It has three M2 slots. None of those share any lanes with the graphics card. On top of that, which this one isn't that big of a deal, but it's just a nice bonus, when you use M2s on a lot of other boards, it disables certain SATA ports. So if you have like an SSD, for example, if you have more than one, or actually even if you have one M2 plugged in, like 2 of your SATA ports get disabled. With this board, there's 4 SATA ports total, none of them disabled if you have all 3 M2s filled even. I was like, okay. So I kept looking into it, and like, there wasn't a whole lot about it. Like, it was weird because it came out last year, I think September of last year. There was no reviews that I could find, like no videos for it, very little like stuff about it online, which was, I was like, this is sketchy, right? I found some Reddit posts that are actually kind of recent, people talking about it, and they were like, yeah, I mean, I have it, it works well. I'm like, okay. I was like, okay. I mean, it kind of does what I need it to do. It is kind of sketchy, there's not a lot of info about it, but let's give it a shot. So finally I decided on that, and that ended up being the MSI. Is this, I forget now what it is. Have it here? No. But it's the, it was the MSI X870E Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. That's what it's called. That's the other thing too, because like there's different platforms you can use, because basically, cause I know hardware, or like I know I'm technical a bit, but like I don't really know hardware. So like I just started by asking Gemini like, what's a motherboard for this specific processor? And then it gave me like the B450s, I think they were. And I was like, well, is this like the latest and greatest for this thing? They're like, no, the X870E is. I was like, okay, well, what's the difference between B450 and X870E? And then like one of the main ones is just more PCIe lanes. It's like, okay, I'll focus on that then. So that's why I went with that. So that worked out. Drink. For the processor, and the reason I was getting that motherboard is because I wanted to get an AMD processor. I ended up getting the 98. Let me just double check. I forget. Was it 97? Yeah, the 9800 X3D. It is like, I think there's a 9850 and then the 9900, which is like 3 times the price of this one. So it's like it's like top 3 AMD, right? And I wanted to get AMD very, very much because I hate Intel. The old computer they had, like when I streamed 2 weeks ago, which by the way, the reason I didn't stream last week is because I had had the day off and did some Christmas shopping and some regular maintenance doctor's appointments. So that's why I didn't stream last week. But when I had my last computer, I had an 8700K in it that I got, I think at this point, like 7-8 years ago. And like 2 months after I got that that processor, the Meltdown, or the Spectre and Meltdown stuff came out. And my CPU took like a 30% hit. I was like, okay, frustrating. Very frustrating, considering how much money I just spent on this. And then over the next like 5-6 years, it felt like every single week, a new Intel vulnerability was being announced. Some of them affected performance, some did not. I was like, bro, like, how are you that bad? Like, you guys suck. I know AMD was also, they had their own, I think it was Spectre that affected them, Meltdown didn't, but they also had some of their own security vulnerabilities. But I felt like Intel literally was like every single week. It was so frustrating. And I was just like, and after a few years, Ryzen started coming out and started being good. I was like, dude, if Ryzen is still good by the next time I do my computer upgrade, I'm going straight back to AMD. Because before I got that 8700K, I had like a, what was it called? Oh my god, I just had it in my head. I want to say Threadripper. It wasn't a Threadripper. It was a friggin' FX. It was like an AMD FX 800 or something like that. I don't remember what it was called, but it was an FX thing. And I loved AMD. Initially, I thought, so the media computer, I passionately refer to as the blue screen simulator, which I initially thought was because I had a bad processor, AMD at the time. Ended up being just memory. So my disdain for AMD due to the blue screen simulator was washed away when I found out it was a RAM after I started doing some testing. Which actually, that actually was 10 years ago when I was doing Legion stuff. Because I remember we'd be in Antorus, and I specifically remember on the boss we just did, who was that, Portal? No, not Portal, it was the other one. Antor and High Command. I remember specifically on that fight, for whatever reason, that was like when I blue screened the most. So I would be like, every raid night, I'd just be begging, please, if you're gonna blue screen, please do it after the raid. Please, please, please don't blue screen. Please don't blue screen. But so many times I blue screened on that fight in this raid. Oh my god, it drove me crazy. But anyway, water again. So I knew I wanted to go back to AMD because I liked them a whole lot more. Always have, always will, always been an AMD guy. Love AMD. And so, yeah, and that was the processor that was kind of value for performance. Ideally, like my ideal computer, if I were to spend as much money as I could, it would have been the 9900 X3D or whatever. But whatever, this is fine. This will last me a whole long time. And so I got that, and then with the RAM, I was like, okay, well, let's take a look at that. I initially wanted to get 64 gigs, but very quickly realized, oh, that is stupid expensive, so maybe one day. But the one thing I was not going to cheap out on was the RGB. Because on my old computer, one of the things I had to skip out on was RGB on my RAM. And the RAM that I got, or the RGB RAM that I wanted, Costreams TV had, and I remember like the first week that I had that old computer, I immediately was like, oh, I should have just went to RGB RAM. Like I definitely messed up. I should have just bit the bullets with the extra $100 whatever and gotten that, because it would have looked so much better. I really regret not doing that. And honestly, there was not a single, whenever I clean my computer, so usually like once every other week, I'd be looking at the RAM and thinking, you should be RGB. And this was like for the last like 7 years, so never got over that. So that's one thing I knew, is I wanted RGB RAM. So I started looking into it, and I found some G-Skills. Whoops, sorry, that was probably loud. Found some G-Skills. 32 gigs. Actually had a CL28 instead of CL30. Most of them are CL30, but 28's a little bit better, so got that. And they're so nice. They're called the G-Skill Royal G-Skill Z5 Trident Z Royal RGB. And it's just like the burning, the exhaust. That's royal. Let me see if I can, on this window, if I go like this, I pull this out, I do G-Skill Royal RGB RAM. No, not RAB, RAM. Images. Yeah, this is it here. You can't see that, hang on. This, look at this. This is it right here. The way it like crystallizes with the RAM, but then also this is reflective. This is like a mirror. It's so crisp looking. It looks so good. And so I knew I had to have it. But the thing that I didn't like is because this motherboard for some reason has like nothing on it, documentation wise, why do I not have the ability to do anything with that person on Twitch? One sec. What? Show, oh, there we go. Show mod icons. There we go. Cool. So because I didn't because this motherboard has not a lot of info on it, I went into the RAM compatibility thing on G-Skill's website because I want to make sure that my RAM is compatible with the motherboard because I don't want to have another issue with SSDs and whatnot. And this RAM, or this motherboard specifically, was not there. And I was like, okay, that's annoying. But there was also not in general a lot of RAM sticks there. It seems like they only tested one 32 gig stick, and it was literally just one stick. It was like a double thing. That's my thing. So I was like, okay, that's weird. But I went to Newegg because they also have their own compatibility check. And when I searched up this motherboard, this RAM came up. I was like, okay. Looked into Reddit, people were like, yeah, it's fine. Never checked the compatibility list, never had issues. It's like, okay, let's just go for it. Fortunately, it worked. So that was great. So got that RAM. It looks phenomenal. I absolutely love it. I just want to make sure if I go here. Good. And then here. Right. Yes, okay. So so very happy. It looks so good. I love this. It's so nice. Oh, I love having that so much. It's so good. It almost has, because the RAM is, or because the lighting isn't like synced up, and I like it that way. It's so basically the blue will come down, like the blue is here and the blue is here on the other RAM stick, and they kind of come down like this, so they're not completely in sync. So it's like, it almost has like a Matrix rainfall effect, which is really sick. Okay, so from there, I started looking into AIOs, all-in-one liquid coolers for my processor. I need to go here quickly, holy, because I needed to obviously cool my processor. And I don't want, I haven't used a fan cooler in a while. I don't trust liquid, but you know, kind of gotta go with what you gotta go. So, started looking into stuff, and overall, like, just in general too, like, a lot of the reviews are like, yeah, this thing broke, didn't work, pump broke, a lot of coil line. I'm like, okay. But finally, I was looking into, like, I googled, like, what is a good processor for the 9800 X3D or whatever, and then the Arctic. So I had a 260 millimeter radiator on my last computer. So I was like, okay, well, I want the same for this. So there was like a Arctic 260 liquid freezer 3 Pro or whatever, but it was sold out everywhere. Okay, but the 360 millimeter one was not. I could get that one. So I was like, okay, can my case support that? And it was like, yep, it can do that, and I think up to 420. Nice. Hello, Marissa. How are you? And so I started looking into that, and the reviews were fantastic. Everyone's saying because of the thick radiator, which, my god, is it beefy. It's like, I don't know. It's like with the fans, it's like this. Massive. But everyone was saying this is like an amazing cooler for specifically for the 9800 because the radiator is massive, airflow is great. It's a very, very good AIO. It's like, okay, cool. So I ended up getting that. And then at that point I had everything, and I was like, well, I'm already here. I'm already upgrading some stuff. I have a 3070 Ti. It's not that old. But let's just see what else is out there. You know, let's just take a gander. So I started looking into the 5070, Am I gaslighting myself, or is the picture better? It better be better, because this computer friggin' is a whole lot better. Hopefully. So that's good to hear. So I started looking into graphics cards. I started looking into the 5070 Ti, 5080. There was like, I don't know, a couple $100 between them. Started looking at performance. Like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I kind of might get one or the other. But then I was like, wait, AMD's better for Linux. So I hear. So why don't I see what AMD has to offer? Because from what I know, like, they're not, I don't think they're beating NVIDIA, but I think they're like, they've come a long way since, you know, a few years ago. So looked into what's like a competitive graphics card for between from AMD that compares with a 5070 Ti/5080, and the 9070 XT came up. So I started looking at that, and like performance-wise, like it was, I think the 5070 Ti overall is better, but it's not a runaway. It's like the 9070 can very much so compare to it, and in some cases is actually better. Okay, and then one of the videos I watched, that I think it was Hardware Unboxed, they were doing for Battlefield 6 testing, and they even compared with the 5080, and even in that, some of those benchmarks, like the AMD card was doing better, or comparable with the 5080. I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Started looking into reviews online and stuff. Everyone's like, yeah, this is a good card. Honestly, it's a good card, especially if you're going for Linux. Like, this is, you know, AMD is the way to go for that. Okay, so I started looking into it, and it's like, price-wise, like it's, I mean, it's what I expect, but it's definitely like a couple $100 cheaper than NVIDIA, which is nice. I don't, overall, I'm not very, I don't really like NVIDIA, because I think they're kind of scummy with how they just don't care about their products. I don't like that when they release products that are marginally better. So I think it was like the 4000 series and the 5000 series. People were doing benchmarks. It's like, this is like insulting, because it's like not that much of a difference, and you're paying hundreds of dollars of more money to get this. It's not worth it. And then also it's the amount of things that they release. I think the cause was getting the 5090, and I don't remember how long it took, but he had to go to like, he has some sort of a tracker that he was a part of, and like groups he was a part of that would message you when specific stores had a quantity in stock. And these stores would get one 5090. And it would sell out before the doors even opened, because obviously the employers are going to be like, yo, friend, I have this now. Do you want it? So he waited months to get it. And finally, the place near my house had it. So I went and got it. So we had it. I was like, Jesus, that's insane. It's just so frustrating. So I don't like them. I like to think I encouraged that discovery. You did. Thank you so much for that. You made me feel less bad about it, which I appreciate it. Am I having a stroke? Hold on. Like, why am I so slurred right now? But yeah, I was like, all right, AMD is the way to go. Again, I love AMD. I've always loved them, and I'm so glad to be back on Team Red. God, I love AMD. So happy to be supporting them. Happy to be with them on Linux. All right, so that's all of it. And then, oh yeah, the power supply as well. I was like, well, I went into Seasonic's power supply calculator. Seasonic is the only power supply brand that I like. I just don't trust like EVGA or like Corsair to make a good power supply. Don't like it. Seasonic's been doing it for like 40 years. They have 10-year warranties on the power supplies. And actually, the new one I got is a 12-year warranty. The power supply that I have currently, I haven't hooked up the new one yet. The power supply I have in my computer right now, when I made this computer in 2017, it's still under warranty. So, fantastic. Tell me more nice things, and you earned it. Happy to see you enjoying it, and can't wait to witness it in person. Oh man, dude, this, honestly, the memory sticks I told you about, I was just gushing about those. I don't know if you're here for that, but they look so much better in person. I'm very excited for you to see those. But yes, thank you again. For the power supply, I started looking into it, and with all the stuff in the calculator, Seasonic said to get about 750 watts. The one I have now is 850. I asked Gemini, it's like, well, you're probably fine, but I guess with the new graphics cards, this one is an ATX 3.0, you know, whatever, which is, I guess, the new standard for graphics cards. So it's like, yeah, you don't have the cable, the 12 or the 16 thing that the ATX 3.0s have, and some of these cards have like a spike sometimes that the ATX 3.0 helps mitigate. So you might have some instability, maybe, possibly. I was like, okay, let's just see how much that is. So I looked into it. I was going to get I think it was a platinum 850 watt, or no, 1000 watts platinum rated but it was like $150 more than gold. I was like, whatever, let's get gold. So I got 1,000 watt. They didn't have, Seasonic is sold nowhere locally. If anything, it's online. Even for that, most of them are sold out. I was like, okay. So I went to Newegg, bought that one. It was supposed to come in between today and Monday. It came in on Monday. So, sorry, it was supposed to come in between now and like the coming Monday. It came in 2 days in advance. So I got it yesterday. Haven't hooked it up yet. Was going to do it after stream today, hopefully. But that's it. So then comes the building portion of this, which, oh my god, it was so frustrating at times. And I knew it was going to take long. So I just kind of grit my teeth and was like, whatever. I know it's going to take me all day. I even messaged calls. I was like, over, under, it'll take me 6 hours to do. He bet the under, which I think he lost. So, let me actually go do this. So I take out everything from my old system, clean out the case. It was nice to finally have that cleaned up. There was some dust that I could never get to because there was something in the way. And it was like, I see it, but like I only clean up to where like the crevices. So it was nice to have like a fully clean case, which it's December coming up, which I usually do like a full, not a full like that. I usually do like a full computer clean, which is where like I blow out all the fans, like I do a wipe down of all the internals instead of just doing the dust fans. So good timing on that specifically. Can I refresh? Do you have another? Yes. Trayers, this is Nightholds. Or whatever. Let me go do Trial of Valor. Yes. So, yeah, take all that stuff out. I clean it. That's my queue. Chill. Which was awesome. And then I start putting everything together. So I take out the motherboard. This time around I was a lot less nervous. Like the first time I built the computer I had. Like the first time I was building that was like the first time I was ever like building my own computer. And so like my hands were constantly sweaty. I thought I was gonna like short circuit something. I was just so nervous. This time around I still definitely a little bit nervous just because, you know, there's some expensive hardware in here. But I was like, I knew what I was doing. I was just doing it. So definitely wasn't as sweaty, which is nice. So yeah, put everything together and then I put the motherboard in to the case and then I wanted to put the